Elevators takes you up and down every single floor, every single day. What happens if it takes you down to the ground floor or the basement, or even to levels deeper than that for no apparent reason? What if it was forever stuck on the 13th floor because someone had died there in that very exact spot? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and get ready for 4 true elevator ghost stories. We're going down. And this time, we're going to the basement. Wait for me. The Ghost and the Elevator. In the early 90s, I worked as a custodian at a hospital in Sacramento, California. Shortly before having been hired, there had been an accident involving one of the elevators. An employee had stepped into the elevator on the top floor. She became trapped between the doors when they suddenly closed. There she was, caught as the elevator plunged to the bottom of the shaft. She, of course, died of her injuries. This floor was being used as an office space for daytime clerks and secretaries. Nobody stayed in the area past 5 p.m. One of my stops on my nightly cleaning rounds was the top floor where I mopped and emptied trash cans. It usually took about 30 minutes to complete my rounds with all of the lights on. And during this period, it was not unusual to hear the sounds of a woman's shoes walking on the tile floor. At first, I walk around looking for a late night worker, but I never found anybody. One night when I was training my replacement, I went to the top floor with a coworker. This coworker was very spiritual and strong in her beliefs. Once there, we heard the familiar feet on the tile, and they did not seem to bother my partner. We finished our rounds and went back to the elevator. We pushed the down button, and after the doors opened, we stepped in and waited for the doors to close. However, they did not. We began to hear the familiar footsteps again, and they seemed to be getting closer and closer. Eventually, they stopped somewhere near the elevator. I looked around and saw nobody. My coworker grew impatient, and as we waited for the doors to close, she finally called out, "You better get on if you're coming. I don't have all night." At that point, the doors closed and the elevator continued on its journey. Ghosts needs the elevator. First contribution, so be kind if I screw up any rules or something. I had a very intense and very real experience at work a couple years back. I'm on the first floor of a 3rd floor building. The 3rd floor is where the executives are, and every Wednesday at 7 a.m. I have to go upstairs and join them in the 3rd floor conference room for a big meeting. This particular morning, it was just before 7 a.m. I was the only one in the 1st floor and walked out of the 1st floor and was walking towards the elevator. Yeah, I know, I should have taken the stairs or something. When, clear as day, I hear someone say, "I'll be there," just inches from my ear. It was kind of breathy, somewhat otherworldly, and definitely very, very out of place voice. I immediately ran to the elevator, turned my back against it, and frantically pushed the call button. There was nobody in the lobby. As soon as the elevator came, I ran in and hit the close button to shut the door. It was freaky and disturbing, but I got over it and forgot about it until the following week. My company had recently let go of a long-time employee. Just a few weeks earlier, in fact. He had been with the company for years before I started, but had fallen into alcoholism after a bad personal shit went down. The company had tried to help him out, but finally too much was too much, and they let him go. He had been an attendee of that Wednesday meeting for years. The week after my I'll be there incident, his former boss received a call from that employee's father. He said he'd been trying to contact the son and hadn't been able to, and finally called the police to go check on him. When they arrived on that Friday, they found him dead in his couch. The coroner concluded he had drank himself to death and estimated the time of death sometime late Tuesday, early Wednesday. When I heard the story, I suddenly remembered the voice I had heard that Wednesday morning. And I was able to put two and two together as to what it could have been. He was trying to make the meeting. Holy shit. Still kind of freaks me out about it to this day, since I'm in IT. I get to be here all the time of the day and even the night sometimes by myself, and I always wonder, will I have another experience? Freaky, huh? The haunted elevator. While I was in Seattle, Washington for a pageant, my mom booked us a room at the Hilton Hotel. We had just gotten back from a competition, and we were craving junk food. We went to the front desk. This is just my mom, myself, my brother stayed back in the room, and we asked the woman if they had any junk food machines. She said no, but we have a pop machine way down at the end of the hall. So my mom and I went to get some pop. The elevators you would normally take were a long distance from the pop machines, and there was a service elevator a few doors down from us. We took the service elevator. This elevator was old. When the doors opened, there was an old chair resting in the corner of it. I thought, maids use this elevator, someone must have left it there or something. When you walk in, you feel this feeling that just makes you feel uncomfortable. At the same time, you're a little freaked out because you're in an old elevator with a rusty old chair. I turned to my mom and said, I bet you someone is sitting in that chair. After that, nothing was quite the same. The feelings began to get stronger, and the elevator doors wouldn't open. The lights showed we were on our floor, which was the third floor, so it wasn't that long of a ride. I then said, I bet this thing is haunted. As soon as I said that, the voice spoke. It sounded as if it were from an old radio, and it sounded like it was on top of the elevator, yet it felt like it was right in your ear. The voice sounded like it was from another time, though. I can't quite describe it, but it was freaky. It said, in a low, uncomfortable voice. My mom and I ran to the doors, and the doors opened, and we were out of there. My brother didn't believe us, but now I'm an even better believer. I told two of my pageant friends about this, and they replied, let's go check it out. I was hesitant, but I still went. It still felt uneasy, not a good feeling. It didn't feel evil. It felt depressing and sad. And at other times, it felt creepily happy. The chair wasn't in the elevator, and my friends and I were too scared to talk, so it didn't reply. I think it was us talking to it that caused it to want to reply to us. This was my first experience, and I was not too happy about it. Queen Mary Aft Elevator. Over the past 15 years, I have visited the Queen Mary Long Beach on multiple occasions. I like to board the ship at night. I would go in the hotel entrance and tell them I was going to the lounge for cocktails. They would let me aboard with no questions asked, even though I was not of legal drinking age during my early visits. At night, the staff was reduced significantly, which made exploring the ship easy. I would cross every unlocked barrier in my exploration of the ship and discovered storage rooms of old furniture, explored the engine rooms, and crossed every roped-off area I could. Every time I went aboard, I would use the aft elevator just outside the wedding chapel. I thought it was funny that no matter what level I chose, the elevator would take me directly to the engine room. At first, I thought it was just the ship being old and not working as designed. In the late 90s, I took my girlfriend, now wife, to show her the strange elevator. We entered the elevator, pushed the very top button, and sure enough, it took us all the way down to the engine room. Later that night, we asked a crew member about the elevator taking us down the engine room. The crew member insisted that was not possible because that elevator does not go to the engine room unless you have a key. We have also seen things aboard that I am not willing to discuss in this forum. About 6 months ago, we returned to discover my little elevator had been sealed off, closed. I know it has to do with a similar haunting I had experienced, but the excuse listed was due to the age of the elevator. We also discovered similar stories about that same elevator taking people down to the engine room, but the other stories, people heard screaming. Sorry, no screaming when it happened to me.